Hello friends, welcome back to a new lecture. Friends, this is a very important lecture since your examination is hardly a few days away. And as usual, I am releasing this mock test of some important questions and case studies with respect to your examination. Now, let's see what concepts and topics will be covered in this mock test. We will start off with question from types of monopolies. Then we will do a question on types of working capital. After this, we will do a question on correlation. Then we will do a question on hypothesis testing. Then we will do a question on types of interviews. After this, we will do a question on motivation theories and we will also do a case study on this. Then we will do a case study on compa ratio. Now, this is a very important concept from HRM and it's must that you watch this case study. After this, we will do a case study on GDP concepts. Now, this is also a very important case study. Then we will do a question on loan syndication and consortium lending. And at last, we will do a question on financial viability of a project. So friends, as you can see, this mock test covers some very important questions and case studies. So do stick till last of this lecture. As always, you can always expect quality from my end. Now before starting, if you haven't subscribed to this channel, then do it now since this is the only quality channel for all the bankers. Also join my Facebook group, which is a group of goal-oriented aspirants where I post lots of one-pagers and other useful stuff which is beneficial for your examination. So do join after you finish this lecture. All the links are there in description to this video. So let's start with mock test without any further delay. And the first question is, now this is from module 8, that is economic analysis. Match the following with respect to types of markets. Now friends, in column A you will find types of market and in column B you will find a characteristic with respect to that markets. Now these answer choices are also given to you. Now friends, just pause the video and try the question yourself. Now friends, to answer this question, you must know all these concepts given in column A. Let's first discuss all these in brief. So first is perfect competition. Now perfect competition refers to a type of market where there are large number of buyers and sellers of a commodity. Now sellers in this market sell homogeneous or identical product at a price which is determined by the market. Now some of the features of perfect competition are, first is very large number of buyers and sellers. Then second is homogeneous or identical products. Then next is free entry and exit of firms. Then next is perfect knowledge of market condition. Then we have uniform price. Then next is perfect mobility of factors of production. And last one is firms are price takers. Then next, let's see what a monopoly is. Now friends, monopoly is a form of market in which there is a single seller or producer of a commodity. There are no substitutes of the monopoly's product. And in fact, there are legal, technical or natural barriers to the entry of new firms in the monopoly. Now the perfect example of such a product can be Microsoft Windows. Friends, just look at the operating system market and you will notice that Microsoft has complete monopoly there. Now the features of monopoly are, first is single seller and large number of buyers. Then next is no substitutes. Then next is restriction of entry of new products. Then next is restriction on entry of new firms. And last one is full control over supply. The next type of market we have oligopoly. Now an oligopoly is a market form where a market or industry is dominated by a small group of large sellers. And some of the features of this market are, first is few sellers and large number of buyers. And second is entry is possible but difficult. And lastly, let's see discriminating monopoly. Friends, this occurs when a business charges a different prices to different groups of customers for same good or service for reasons which are not associated with the cost. But please note that charging different prices for similar goods is not pure price discrimination. So friends, with this discussion, I hope now you can easily answer this question. This perfect competition matches with identical product. Then monopolistic competition matches with price differentiation. Then this oligopoly matches with dominating strategy. And lastly, discriminating monopoly matches with different prices for the same product. Thus, the correct option for the given question is option A. The next question is from module D. Now, here also match the following with respect to types of working capital. Now, as usual, in first column, we are given different working capitals and second column explains those working capital. Now, these answer choices are also given to you. Now friends, to answer this question, we need to discuss different types of working capital. So first of all, funds needed for short-term purposes for purpose of raw materials or payment of wages etc. are known as working capital. Now working capital can be classified either on the basis of its concept or on the basis of periodicity of requirements. So on the basis of concept, it can be classified into gross working capital and net working capital. Friends, first of all, gross working capital is nothing but the sum of company's current assets which are convertible to cash and used to fund daily business activity. So gross working capital equals only current assets. Then we have net working capital. Friends, net working capital is the excess of current assets over current liabilities. So net working capital equals current assets minus current liabilities. Now second classification is on the basis of periodicity of requirements. Friends, on the basis of time and requirement, working capital can be classified into two categories, where first is permanent working capital and second is temporary working capital. Now, permanent working capital is basically the minimum level of investment required in the business. Friends, please note investment of minimum current assets like inventory, book debts, cash book should always be there to facilitate uninterrupted operation in the business. Also remember, Tandon Committee has referred to this working capital as hardcore working capital. So do remember this important term also. Then second type of working capital under this classification is temporary working capital. Now temporary working capital or variable working capital is the amount of working capital which is required to meet seasonal demands and some special exigencies. So the capital required to meet the seasonal needs of an enterprise is called seasonal working capital. Friends, the difference between permanent working capital and temporary working capital is more clear with this diagram. Please note permanent working capital is stable over a period where temporary working capital or variable working capital is oscillating up and down. So friends, with this discussion, I hope you can easily answer this question. The first is gross working capital, which matches with total current assets. Then net working capital matches with difference of current assets and current liabilities. Then next is permanent working capital, which matches with hardcore working capital. And lastly, we have variable working capital, which matches with excess of working capital over permanent working capital. Thus, the correct option for the given question is option A. Now friends, before moving ahead with the lecture, don't forget to get your CIB Masters Pack. This is a pack of 4 books. These first 2 are secret sauce books, which are in fact summarized notes. And these last 2 are 1000 series question banks of ABM and BFM respectively. All these comes with detailed explanations. All the books are updated after every exam, so always get updated editions from the links provided in description only. You can also get this Retail Banking 1000 series which contains chapter-wise questions and case studies. All the links are there in description to this video, so don't miss out on these. So let's move forward with our lecture. And the next question is from Module B. And the question is, what type of correlation exists in the following 2 variables? Now this data table is given to you and these answer choices are also given to you. Friends, I hope you all know what a correlation is. In short, correlation is concerned with relationship between 2 related and quantifiable variables. Now the best way to determine types of correlation is by drawing a scatter diagram. Now in this method, the data given is plotted on a graph in form of dots and then we analyze the formation of these dots. So based on scatter plot diagram, correlation can be first positive correlation. Now here the points are scattered around an upward rising line. Then second is negative correlation. Now here the points are scattered around downward sloping line. Then next is no correlation. Friends, in this case there is no upward or downward movement in points plotted. In such case, correlation is said to be 0. Then next is perfect positive correlation. Friends, here points are not scattered around the line, rather they are on the same upward sloping line like this, as you can see in this diagram. So here the correlation is said to be +1. And lastly, we have perfect negative correlation. Friends, here also the points are not scattered around the line, rather they are on the downward sloping line, as you can see here. And in this case, the correlation is said to be -1. Now, when you plot the scatter diagram for the data given in the question, you will see this type of diagram. So can you answer what type of correlation is this? Yes, if you said perfect positive correlation, then you are correct. And we just learned that in a positive correlation, the value is +1. So the correct answer for the given question is option C. Next question is also from module B. Now match the following with respect to hypothesis testing. Now friends, in column A we are given the definition, and in column B we need to match what that means. Then these answer choices are given to you. Now friends, hypothesis testing is a very important topic, but this is missed from your usual textbooks. Now those of you who still haven't studied hypothesis testing, then please note hypothesis testing is a branch of statistics which helps in arriving at a criteria for taking business or other decisions. So let's discuss some concepts with respect to hypothesis testing, with the help of which we can easily answer this question. Now the first is that of statistical hypothesis, which is basically some assumption or statement which may or may not be true. Then comes null hypothesis. Friends, this is a hypothesis which is tested for possible rejection under the assumption that it is true. Now this is generally denoted by H0. Then comes alternative hypothesis. Friends, this hypothesis is complementary to null hypothesis. Now this is usually denoted by H1. Then next comes errors in hypothesis testing. Friends, in testing any hypothesis, we are likely to commit two types of errors. Now first is type 1 error. Now we make this type of error by rejecting a true null hypothesis, and this type of error is generally denoted by alpha. For example, let's look at the trial of an accused criminal. The null hypothesis will be the person is innocent, while the alternative hypothesis will be that he is guilty. Now type 1 error in this case would mean that the person is not found innocent and is sent to jail despite being actually innocent. Then second type of error is type 2 error. Now we make type 2 error by accepting a wrong null hypothesis, and this is generally denoted by Greek letter beta. A simple example of this error can be a test for a disease which may report a negative results when the patient is in fact infected. Now this is a type 2 error because we accepted the conclusion of the test as negative even though it was incorrect. Next friends, we have another term, that is level of significance. Now the significance level is probability of rejecting the null hypothesis when it is true mainly due to sampling error. And lastly, we have power of a test. Friends, power of a hypothesis test is the probability that the test rejects the null hypothesis when a specific alternative hypothesis is true. That is, it indicates the probability of avoiding a type 2 error. Now friends, with all this discussion, I hope now you are in a much better position to answer this question. So first is the ability of test to reject the null hypothesis when it is false. Now this is basically power of a test. Then second is the probability of accepting a false null hypothesis. Now this is nothing but type 2 error. Then third one is probability of rejecting a true null hypothesis due to sampling error. Now as discussed earlier, this is our level of significance. And finally we have probability of rejecting a true null hypothesis. Now this is nothing but type 1 error. So friends, as you can see, the correct option for the given question is option B. The next question is from module C, that is HRM. And the question is, which of the following statements is correct with respect to types of interviews? Now the first statement is, structured interview is useful for valid results, especially when dealing with large number of applicants. Then second statement is, an unstructured interview is useful when interviewer tries to probe personal details of the candidate to analyze why they are not fit for the job. Then third statement is, a mixed interview is a realistic approach that yields comparable answers plus in-depth insights. And last statement D is, a behavioral interview is useful to understand applicants' reasoning and analytical abilities under modest stress. Now these answer choices are also given to you. Now friends, this question is related to recruitment, and in recruitment, as you know, interview plays a very important role. Now interviews can be of various types. So first is structured interview. Now it is useful for valid results, especially when dealing with large number of applicants. Then next is unstructured interview. Now this type of interview is useful when interviewer tries to probe personal details of the candidates to analyze why they are not fit for the job. Then third is mixed interview. Now friends, it is a realistic approach that yields comparable answers plus in-depth insights. And last one is behavioral interview. Now this type of interview is useful to understand applicants' reasoning and analytical abilities under modest stress. So friends, with these definitions, I hope you can easily answer this question. For examination also, do remember all these definitions. As you can see, the correct answer for the given question is option D. That is, all the given statements are correct. Next question is also from HRM and is very important as it is from motivation theory. Yes friends, motivation theories are very important for your examination and I have summarized all these in my ABM secret sauce book. So do revise all these before your examination. Now the question goes like this. Which of the following statements is correct with respect to motivational theories? Now first is equity theory, which says motivation depends upon ratios of inputs and outcomes of self-others. Then second is Vroom's theory, which says people are motivated to achieve a goal to the extent that they expect that certain action will help them to reach the goal. And third one is Porter and Lawyer model, which says there exists a complex relationship among motivation, performance and satisfaction. And last statement is Herzberg's theory, which says an organization can adjust motivational and hygiene factors to influence motivation in the workplace. Now these answer choices are given to you. Friends, as you can see, this is a definition based question. And to answer this question, you must know what all these models are. So let's see all these motivation theories one by one in brief. So first one is Adams' equity theory. Friends, the equity theory of motivation deals with the way people compare the value of themselves to others in similar work situations based on their inputs and outputs. Now, inputs are what you bring to the situation, like your skills, time, and education. On the other hand, outputs are everything that you get in return, like your salary, bonuses, raise, and promotions. Now, this theory assumes that people's motivation in an organization is based on the desire to be treated equally and fairly. And if individuals perceive that their rewards are not fair, they will feel distressed and try to change things to create the sense of fairness. The next is Vroom's theory. Friends, Vroom's expectancy theory of motivation says that individuals are motivated to do something by three things. They are motivated when they value the reward associated with an action. Then second is trust that they will receive the reward if they do a good job. And lastly, believe that they have the ability to achieve their objectives by hard work. The next theory is Porter and Lawyer's model. Friends, this theory of motivation is based on the assumption that rewards cause satisfaction and that sometimes performance also produces reward. They hypothesize that the relationship between the satisfaction and performance is linked by another variable, rewards. The believers of this theory see good performance leading to reward which lead to satisfaction. This model is in fact a multivariable model and explains the complex relationship among motivation, performance and satisfaction. Now, this theory argues that satisfaction does not always lead to performance. Rather, the reverse is true, because people can become complacent after achieving some satisfaction. On the other hand, performance can lead to satisfaction if the reward systems are effective. So, this theory proposed two types of rewards. First is intrinsic rewards. Now, intrinsic rewards are given to an individual by himself for good performance. Then second is extrinsic rewards. Now, extrinsic rewards are given by the organization and satisfy mainly lower level needs. And lastly, let's see Herzberg's two-factor theory. Friends, Herzberg's motivation theory model or two-factor theory argues that there are two factors that an organization can adjust to influence motivation in the workplace. Now, these factors are, first is motivational factors which encourage employees to work harder, and second is hygiene factors. Friends, this factor won't encourage employees to work harder, but these factors cause them to become unmotivated if the factors are not present. So friends, after learning all these motivational theories, I hope you can easily answer this question. Please read the question carefully and you will observe that all the statements 1 to 4 are correct. So the correct option for the given question is option D. Friends, next question is also from module C, that is HRM. And the question is, which of the following statements are correct with respect to HRM concepts? And the first statement is human resource planning, which is a strategy for acquisition, utilization, improvement and preservation of human resources of an enterprise. Then second statement is psychometric test. This measures the candidate's suitability for a role based on the required personality characteristics and aptitude or cognitive abilities. Then third statement is staffing, which is remunerating correctly to the staff. And last statement is stipend, which is in fact a predetermined amount of money that is paid to trainees, interns or students to help offset expenses. Now friends, these answer choices are also given to you. Now friends, the best part of HRM module is that you can answer many questions with analytical reasoning. And this module makes ABM bit easier to crack with respect to BFM. If you reread the statements again carefully, you can easily find the statements which are correct and which are wrong. Now can you point out which statements are wrong? Well, statement 1 is correct and so is statement 2. But when you carefully look at statement 3, please note staffing is putting the right person to the right job. And staffing is not related to the salary part as mentioned in the statement. So statement 3 is wrong and then statement 4 is also correct. Thus, the correct option for the given question is option B. Then next we have a case study from HRM module. And the case study goes like this. Mrs. Annie from Kerala was hired directly from her college along with 3 other graduates from different schools that had comparable backgrounds. They all started out with same salaries, 2 on one team and 2 on another team. As the year came to a close, evaluations and raises were conducted throughout the organization. Annie felt that she would receive a raise that was of the same amount as that of other colleagues. But she came to find out that her raise was in fact 0.5% less than those of other 2 recent graduates. Now she felt offended and tried evaluating what the difference between her and others were. First, she distorted her view of their work. Others were working on new projects and had been putting on some extra time to keep up. And she thought if she had been given a new project, then she also may have put in some extra time. She then started to try to make up for the inequality by decreasing her inputs. She began to come into the work late. She felt that this was justified since she was not making what her other colleagues were making. This made her feel as though she was more on an equal level and would justify her lower salary. Now, which of the motivation theory is she inspired from? And the first option is equity theory. Then second option is Vroom's theory. Then third option is Porter and Lawyer's model. And last option D is Herzberg's theory. Now friends, this is a very good case study and to answer this question, you must know all these motivational theories really well. I have discussed all these 4 theories in one of the previous questions. So please revise all those and then reread the case study again. So the correct answer to the given question is option A, that is Adams' equity theory. Now as you can see, Annie started distorting the others' inputs and outputs and started decreasing her inputs to reduce her feelings of offense and tension created by this unusual situation. Now friends, the equity theory of motivation is in fact a pretty powerful motivation. If people do not feel that they are being treated fairly, then they have to deal with in it some way to bring the comparison back to equilibrium. And this is what was done by Annie when she began to come to work late and leave earlier. So I hope the reasoning is clear to you. So the correct answer for the given question is option A. Now next question is also a case study from module C, that is HRM, and is based on compa ratio. Now this is a very important concept from HRM, so do watch this case study really well. Now let's suppose our market comparison salaries per year for a retail manager are those as per this table. Now friends, this market comparison salary chart is given to you. That is, these are the salaries which is given by the industry to retail managers per year. Now if there are 3 actual retail managers, that is A, B and C, who earns $89,000, $102,000 and $118,000 per year, then answer next 5 questions based on data given. And the first question of our case study is, what is market range midpoint? And these options are given to you. Friends, market midpoint will be average of highest and lowest salary which is paid by the market for the position of retail manager. And as you can see, the lowest salary which is given in the market is $80,500 and highest salary which is given at present is $120,300. So when you average this, you will get 80,500 plus 120,300 divided by 2 equals $100,400. So the correct answer for the given question is option D. Next question is, which of the retail managers has the highest compa ratio? And these options are given to you. Now friends, compa ratio, which is in fact short for comparison ratio, is a comparison of salary you are paying to your employees versus the market midpoint for similar positions at other companies. So compa ratio is a very useful metric to have when setting salary levels or negotiating raises, and it also helps you to avoid losing talent to other companies. Now the formula to calculate compa ratio is simply compa ratio equals salary you are paying divided by market range midpoint multiplied by 100. So as you can see, it is calculated in percentage. So in the given case study, the compa ratios of all the three retail managers will be, so first is compa ratio of manager A will be 89,000 divided by 100,400 multiplied by 100. Now please note we have already calculated market range midpoint in previous question. So we are using that here. Then second is compa ratio of manager B, which equals $102,000 divided by 100,400 multiplied by 100, which equals 101.59%. And lastly, compa ratio for manager C will be $118,000 divided by 100,400 multiplied by 100 equals 117.53%. So as you can see, manager C has highest compa ratio. Thus the correct option for the given question is option C. The next question of our case study is, which of the manager is getting salary above market rate? And these options are given to you. Now friends, we can interpret compa ratio as per this chart. That is, if compa ratio is less than 100%, then this means that you are paying below market rate. And if compa ratio is exactly 100%, then you are paying at par of market rate. And if compa ratio is greater than 100%, then you are paying above market rate. So with respect to this question, you can see that compa ratio of both managers B and C are 101.59% and 117.53% respectively. So both are getting their salaries above market rate. Thus the correct option for the given question is option D. Next question is, which of the following managers can be classified as fully competent performers performing the job as defined? And these options are given to you. Now friends, there are another interpretation of compa ratio which is different from that of what we saw in previous question. So in this interpretation, there are usually 5 zones of compa ratio. And each of these zones is associated with a predefined level of performance. Now a commonly accepted range of compa ratios is 80% to 120, which is divided into 5 zones. First is 80 to 87%, which defines the candidates that are new, inexperienced or unsatisfactory performed incumbents. Then second is 88 to 95%. This includes those who are gaining experience but not yet fully competent in the job. The next is 96 to 103%. This means fully competent performance performing the job as defined. The next is 104 to 111%. This includes those consistently performing the job at a level higher than what the job definition requires. And lastly, we have 112 to 120%. This includes those who are universally recognized as outstanding performance both inside and outside the organization. Now friends, with this I hope you can easily answer this question. So as you can see, manager B with a compa ratio of 101.59% falls in this range. So he is the one who is fully competent and performing his job as defined. Thus the correct option for the given question is option B. And the last question of this case study is, which of the below retail manager has highest probability of leaving his job? Friends, I hope with all these previous discussions, you can answer this question pretty well. Now the correct answer to the question is option A. That is, manager A has highest probability of leaving his job. Now, can you answer why? Well, as you can see, his compa ratio is 88.65%, which is less than 100%. So he is getting less than market rate. Thus, the chances are there that he may leave his job after getting some experience if his salary is not increased. So the correct option for the given question is option A. Friends, I hope the case study is clear to you. Do comment if you face any issue in any question. Next also we have a case study from module A and is related to GDP concept. Now given is the hypothetical data for the financial year 2020-21. Now friends, all this data is given to you. First is GDP at market prices given as 70,150 crores. Then indirect taxes are given as 5,200 crores. Then factor income from abroad is given as 800 crores. Then depreciation is given as 3,100 crores. Then factor income to abroad is given as 300 crores. And lastly, subsidies is given as 4,000 crores. Now answer next 5 questions based on data given. And the first question is, what are net indirect taxes? And these options are given to you. Now friends, I am sharing this one pager of GDP which is very beneficial for your examination. Please remember all these relations. Yes friends, GDP is one topic where you will find lot of formulas to remember. So just pause the video so that you can note down all these relations. Now friends, let's start solving this case study. So with knowledge of all these relations, you can easily solve the questions. Now, as you can see, net indirect taxes equals indirect taxes minus subsidies. Indirect taxes are given as 5,200 crores, then subsidies are given as 4,000 crores. So net indirect taxes will be 5,200 minus 4,000 equals 1,200 crores. Thus, the correct option for the given question is option A. Next question is, what is domestic income? And these options are given to you. Friends, as you can see, domestic income equals GDP at market price minus depreciation minus net indirect taxes. And GDP at market price is given as 70,150 crores. Then depreciation is also given as 3,100 crores. And net indirect taxes we have found in previous question as 1,200 crores. So domestic income equals 70,150 minus 3,100 minus 1,200 equals 65,850 crores. Thus the correct option for the given question is option D. The next question of our case study is, what is net factor income from abroad? And these options are given to you. Friends, net factor income from abroad in this case will be simply factor income from abroad minus factor income to abroad. And both these figures are given in the question. So net factor income from abroad will be simply 800 crores minus 300 crores equals 500 crores. Thus, the correct option for the given question is option D. Next question of the case study is, what is gross national product at market price? And these options are given to you. Friends, please note, gross national product at market price equals gross domestic product at market price plus net factor income from abroad. And GDP at market price is given in the question as 70,150 crores. And net factor income from abroad we have found in previous question as 500 crores. Thus GNP at market price equals 70,150 plus 500 equals rupees 70,650 crores. Thus the correct option for the given question is option B. Friends, finally we have reached the last question of this case study, and the question goes like this. What is national income? And the options given are these. Friends, please recall national income equals GNP at market price minus depreciation minus net indirect taxes. Now we have found all these in previous questions. So national income equals 70,650 crores minus 3,100 minus 1,200 equals rupees 66,350 crores. Thus the correct option for the given question is option C. Now friends, next question of our mock test is from module D. And the question is, dash is an arrangement where a pool of bank agrees to provide credit facilities to a borrower using common loan document. And the first option is loan syndication. Then second option is consortium lending. Then third option is group lending. And last option D is bridge lending. Now friends, the correct answer for the given question is loan syndication. Now I have seen some students get confused between loan syndication and consortium lending. So please note, under consortium lending, all the banks act as supervisor, whereas under loan syndication, there is a lead bank or syndicate agent who looks after all the issues. So as you can see, the correct answer for the given question is option A. Friends, finally we have reached the last question of our mock test, and the question goes like this. And this question is from module D. That is, financial viability analysis of a project is used to determine. Now these four statements are given. And the first statement is whether cost of project and means of finance as shown in the project report are realistic. Then second statement is whether project is capable of profitable operations. Then third statement is whether estimates of cost of production fully cover all the items of expenditure. And last statement is whether demand and supply position of the product is met and substitutes present. Now friends, these four answer choices are given to you. Friends, this question deals with financial viability of any loan proposal that you receive. Now this question can be easily answered by just analytical reasoning. So when you read all the statements carefully, you will notice that statements 1, 2 and 3 are all related to financial aspect of a project, while statement 4 is actually testing the economic viability. Thus the correct answer for the given question is option A. So friends, I hope all the questions and case studies are clear to you. If you face any difficulty in any question, then you can post your query in comment section. Lastly, you can access all the updated CAB resources from the links given in description to this video. So thank you, and I will meet you again in another lecture.